On the morning of April 12, 2016, in the city of Yorkton, Saskatchewan, Canada, 16-year-old Mekayla Bali was dropped off at Sacred Heart High School by her grandmother. This is the final time a member of Mekayla's family would ever see her again, as Mekayla Bali would later that day seemingly vanish from the face of the earth. And despite best efforts from law enforcement and the media to locate Mekayla, not a single trace of her current whereabouts has ever been found to this very day. Mekayla lived with her mother Paula, her grandmother Margaret, and her two younger siblings. She was raised in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and attended Sacred Heart High School and led a seemingly normal childhood. She was described by her friends as a quiet but popular girl who loved music and reading and enjoyed playing video games. She has been described by her mother as just an ordinary teenager. In the months and weeks leading up to her disappearance, Mekayla's family had stated that there was nothing unusual in Mekayla's behaviour and that she was not the type of teenager to run away from home. Mekayla was said to have been single at the time of her disappearance, though she was still in contact with her ex-boyfriend, who she had remained close friends with. Her friends had stated that Mekayla had talked about leaving Yorkton and moving to Regina, or some other city, but they had suspected these as mostly dreams and not any real indicator that she really wanted to leave. She would occasionally talk to strangers online on social media from time to time, something her friends did not approve of, but these encounters were said to be short-lived. One of those encounters had been a man identified as Christopher, who would later become a person of interest to the police, and we will get into further details about him at a later stage in the video. Nothing had seemed out of the ordinary for Mekayla in the days leading up to her disappearance, all except one thing. The night before Mekayla had went missing, she had placed 3 calls to her bank provider to check her balance, suggesting that she may have been expecting a cash transfer, though no money would ever arrive in her account. At 6:12 a.m. on April 12, 2016, the morning of the day Mekayla went missing, she sent a text message to her friend Oksana, asking her to drive her to the bank. Oksana, however, declined the offer, suggesting that the bank wouldn't be open so early in the morning. Mekayla was said to have told Oksana that she had $5,000 in her bank account, though investigators would later identify that she had nowhere close to that figure in her account at the time of her disappearance. At 8:20 a.m, Mekayla arrived at Sacred Heart High School, where she was expected to attend her classes. Upon entering the school, she went directly to a locker, where she remained for 6 minutes, before exiting the school through a back entrance. A short time later, she received a text message from her ex-boyfriend asking why she wasn't in class. She replied stating that she was at the other side of town, a lie, as she had only just left the school moments ago. At 8:55 a.m, she arrived at the bank and was spotted on CCTV talking to someone on the phone. This call would never actually be traced back to anyone. She then proceeded to withdraw $55 from her account and exited the bank. She then entered a nearby pawn shop and attempted to pawn a silver ring. However, the owner refused to take the ring, stating it was a very low value. The owner of the pawn shop would describe Mekayla as being composed and calm during their encounter, which would indicate that she was not in any kind of distress. At 9:15 a.m, she was seen on CCTV entering a Tim Hortons and Wendy's restaurant, where she ordered a drink and then sat in a booth. She appeared to be looking around nervously and often glancing towards the entrance, possibly suggesting that she was waiting for someone, or even trying to avoid someone. She exited the restaurant a short time later via one of the exits, only to be seen returning moments later and leaving through a different exit. At 9:49 a.m, she returned to the Tim Hortons and Wendy's and sat at a booth facing the door. However, this time she was on the phone with someone, and this call, like the previous one, would never be traced back to anyone, suggesting that the calls may have been made over a social media network, or that she was using a second phone. At 10:12 a.m, she sent a text message to one of her friends, Shelby, and said, "Hey, I need your help," only to follow up moments later saying, "Never mind, I figured it out." Roughly 30 minutes later, she approached a lady in the Tim Hortons and Wendy's and asked the lady if she could assist her in booking a hotel room. When the lady refused, she made another phone call, then promptly left the restaurant. Between 10:45 a.m. and 11:55 a.m, Mekayla's whereabouts are unknown. There's no CCTV footage has been found capturing her movements, and there's been no eyewitnesses coming forward with any information. Shortly before noon, Mekayla returned to school, where she would explain to her friends that she was planning to take a bus to Regina, another city within the Saskatchewan area. Her friends at this time had also suspected that she may have been carrying a second phone, though whether she did in fact own a second phone or not has never and most likely never will be definitively proven, and if she did have a second phone, neither her friends nor her family were aware of the number. Shortly thereafter, at approximately 12:02 p.m, Mekayla left Sacred Heart High School for the final time and began walking towards a bus depot. This is the final time Mekayla would ever be seen on CCTV. She would be spotted shortly thereafter by an eyewitness at the UFC bus depot, and then later in a trail stop restaurant within the depot. At some time between 1 and 1:45 p.m, Mekayla left the trail stop, and she is not believed to have purchased a bus ticket whilst there, and where she planned to travel after leaving remains unclear. She has never been seen or heard from since. At around 7 p.m. later that same day, she was reported missing by her family. Mekayla's disappearance has seemingly baffled the investigators tasked with finding her since the moment she went missing. What police have been able to substantiate from Mekayla's friends, though, is that she had been in frequent contact with a number of new people on social media apps Snapchat, Instagram, and possibly Kik. Though most of the encounters have been described as short-lived, it is still unknown exactly how many people she was in contact with and the identity of all of those people at the time of her disappearance. The police were able to track down a man by the name of Christopher, residing in North Carolina, America, who Mekayla had been known to be chatting with on social media. He was questioned and his home was searched, but he was ruled out as a person of interest after the police found no evidence that he'd been anywhere near Canada at the time of Mekayla's disappearance. He has since given statements insinuating that Mekayla may have been suffering with depression at the time she disappeared. Another person the police were able to track down from Mekayla's social media activity was a boy by the name of Josh, but this also proved to be a dead-end line of inquiry, as Josh was unable to provide any information of note in relation to the case. The only other potential person of interest to the police was a man with a flaming cross tattoo on his arm. He had been spotted alongside Mekayla while she was at the bus depot, and it is believed, however, that the police have now questioned this man and that his only interaction with her was holding the door as she left the trail stop restaurant. As the police have been unable to trace Mekayla's whereabouts after she left the bus depot, and with no further witnesses coming forward or leads to explore, the case has seemingly gone cold. Since Mekayla's disappearance, there's been a number of potential sightings and theories to suggest what could have happened to her, but so far nothing has turned up to be anything of note. The police seem to be keeping tight-lipped about any potential theories they may have for the case, but Mekayla's family have speculated around the possibility of her being groomed and kidnapped by a human trafficking organisation. And that is an interesting theory, and a one which certainly can't be ruled out. But at this stage, and with the information currently available, that theory can only be considered as speculation backed up with circumstantial evidence. What I find so bizarre in this case is how conflicting everything seems to be. Despite Mekayla giving no indication or signs to her family that she intended to run away, on the day of her disappearance she is seen carrying a backpack, when her friends had stated to police that she had always been known to only carry a purse. She also, according to her family, didn't take her phone charger, makeup or medication, things you would have expected someone to take if they were expected to go on a trip or to run away from home. She also stated to her friends that she had planned to take a trip to Regina, but previously that same day she also asked a lady to help her book a hotel. She then went to the bus depot but didn't buy a ticket. None of it seems to add up. She doesn't seem to have a clear plan. Her behaviour seems sporadic, yet all eyewitnesses who saw her that day seem to describe her as calm and collected. Something else which I found odd is that on the day of her disappearance she was spotted in a pawn shop and at the bus depot, which don't come across as the sort of places you would expect to find a 16-year-old, and especially one who is described as coming from a good background and a loving family. I want to get into a couple of the theories I personally have after studying this case for the previous week or so. I do also just want to state in advance that anything I do say is nothing more than speculation and should be treated as such. It seems very likely that on the day she disappeared she was expecting to meet someone. She can be seen on CCTV in the Tim Hortons and Wendy's on the phone, looking towards the entrance as if she is expecting someone. What I also find interesting is that the Tim Hortons and Wendy's had CCTV cameras, whereas the trail stop and bus depot did not. Perhaps the person she was intending to meet was aware of this and didn't want to be seen on CCTV, and this is why she went to the trail stop. It's certainly a long shot, but it could be possible. And if it were the case, it would definitely mean the person she was intending to meet either lived in or was extremely familiar with the Yorkton area, and maybe they had planned to run away together, or at least this is what Mekayla had believed. Whoever this person was, it seems clear that Mekayla trusted them, which may indicate they were older than her or in a position of power over her. Mekayla's actions the night prior and what she told her friends the following morning strongly suggest that she was expecting $5,000 to be transferred into her bank account. This could have been what she saw as an opportunity to leave her past life behind, and although $5,000 may not seem like a large amount of money to restart your life over, to a naive 16-year-old, it could certainly feel like a life-changing amount of money. The only thing we know for certain is that after April 12, 2016, Mekayla has never been seen or heard from again, and the mystery to this day remains unsolved. It's approaching almost 5 years that have passed since the last confirmed sighting of Mekayla Bali, and her family continue to remain hopeful. Pages have been set up on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter dedicated to help finding Mekayla, and they continue to pray for her safe return. But as of yet, no further information of leads have materialised. So please, if you have any information which could aid in the effort to find Mekayla Bali, reach out to law enforcement. Thank you all for watching, and good night.